A new batch of Xbox freakouts is happening today right now on the socials. And that is because Phil Spencer gave an interview with Bloomberg in which he said a lot of interesting stuff, actually. And we're going to go over a lot of that stuff today, most notably that they're open for acquisitions, and then also handheld is inevitable. A handheld is definitely coming. We're going to go over that. We're also going to go over some of the freakouts here. And my response on Twitter, what I said, don't freak out. Nothing is new here. Ultimately, what Phil Spencer said here is nothing that we didn't already know. Everything he said here has been the same. And it's like, you're either not paying attention or you're just lying to create content. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are lying to create content, unfortunately. We're going to go over that today. Before we do, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel. My name is X1 the Gamer. We drop videos like this all the time, Monday through Friday, right here on this channel. I did miss yesterday, so let me apologize up front. I'm a little under the weather. I'm actually hopped up on caffeine and a ton of medicine. So it's good to be back, though. It's good to be back. Apologize for missing yesterday. In case you didn't know, we do have a podcast, X1 Daily. That's X1 Daily. Go check out the podcast, rate, review, and subscribe to us if you're listening to us there. And let's jump into it. Now, this interview was over on Bloomberg, and I thought maybe we should read through the whole interview. It's really long, though. So I looked at a couple different sites to see who had the best breakdown. And believe it or not, GamesIndustry.biz had one of the better breakdowns. They seem to have covered everything pretty well here. Let me actually resize this for you guys. Apologize. It already was perfect size. There we go. Believe it or not, they had one of the better breakdowns where they go over everything, but in a nice consolidated manner. So shout out to GamesIndustry.biz. I know I've been on your case before, but this one, Marie, the deputy editor here, absolutely crushed it. So well done. This is a good, accurate response to everything. So let's go over it, and then we'll stop and I'll talk about it as we go over it here. So Microsoft interested in more mergers and acquisitions. Spencer says, quote, "We're not going to grow the market with $1,000 consoles," Microsoft gaming boss says as the firm looks at mobile. Microsoft still has an eye on potential games-related acquisitions, particularly in mobile or in places that could add geographic diversity to Xbox's portfolio. What does that mean? Geographic diversity. Anybody? Japan. That's all Japan all the time. That's what that means. Asia. I guess Asia probably is the geographic diversity is Asia. They want Asian studios. They want to tap into the Asian market, which is why I'm going to be looking personally. I think most likely here is Sega. I think a Sega, a Capcom, those are going to be probably a Square Enix even. Those are going to be the focuses for Xbox. Whether any of those companies are for sale, I don't know. Rumor has been Sega for a while now, but I do think that is where they're looking. I think that's where we're going to see additions. I don't think... He didn't have to say geographic diversity. He said geographic diversity, and that's because I think that's exactly the point here. We're set in the West. We've got Western developers. We don't have any niches to fill there. The East is where Xbox's library, I think, and studios could really use some work, and where their focus has been, to be perfectly honest. That's according to a Phil Spencer. I'm continuing here with we're closing up on geographic diversity. That's according to a Phil Spencer interview, says GameIndustry.biz, with Bloomberg, with the Microsoft gaming boss adding, quote, "We definitely want to be in the market, and when we can find teams and technology and capability that add to what we're trying to do in gaming at Microsoft, absolutely we will keep our heads up." So I don't think that's a surprise. I think with the U.S. elections, you're probably going to have a lot more business-friendly or acquisition-friendly FEC in the mix here. And I think that's exactly why Phil Spencer probably did this interview, to get out ahead of it, to talk about it, and to talk about acquisitions, further acquisitions. In a Game Pass model, you need as much content and variety of content as possible. That's just the reality of the Game Pass model. Gone are the days of where you could drop one exclusive a year and expect people to buy your console. In a subscription service, you need to be delivering constantly, and the service that can do that the best, with the most variety, with the most releases every year, is going to win. That's just how it works, and that's why I think Sony has such an uphill battle if they want, or anybody for that matter has an uphill battle if they want to compete on that part of things. He reportedly added that there aren't any imminent deals, though, and that large companies are likely not what the firm would be targeting, as it's still in transition following the ABK acquisition. Spencer also said that Microsoft is particularly interested in China. Boom. Hey, look at that. Look at that. Did I not just say that? I did. Especially following its successful launch of Age of Empires Mobile in partnership with Tencent. It's been a good area for us to learn from creative teams that have really unique capability, he said. The real opportunity is to partner with creative teams in China for global. Still on the topic of mobile, Spencer said he's feeling, quote, pretty good about where this industry is going, unquote, adding, quote, to reach new players, we need to, let me reread this. To reach new players, we need to be creative and adaptive of new business models, new devices, new ways of access. We're not going to grow the market with $1,000 consoles. Completely agree. If you can't see that coming, you've not been paying attention. And this is what really surprises me about again, another round of freakouts on Twitter. Now, this is a new set of suspects. Some of them are the same, but a new set of suspects where, Xbox is going third party. They're not going third party, everybody. That's not what they're building an ecosystem. They're driving forward here. That's what this is all about. You got to get outside of your 1999 to 2000 console war days. Like, it's 2024, everybody. Technology has changed. The gaming industry is changing dramatically. And Xbox, I think, is leading the way with it. He added that Xbox mobile storefront, which was due to launch this summer, has been delayed to an unspecified date as the company further researches the market. Spencer also shared that Microsoft is looking at handheld and working on hardware prototypes on that front, though anything more concrete is, quote, a few years out for Xbox. So there was speculation, and we did a video on this a few weeks ago, that we were going to get an Xbox handheld announcement in 2025. So next year, first quarter, there is hardware coming of some sort. The common thought there was that would be mobile. If they're a few years out, it still may be. They may talk about it in theory. They may talk about it as a prototype, but it doesn't sound like it here. It may just be that what we do get announced here is the next generation console, that they show it off, that maybe there's something in the works there. That might be the hardware that comes for next week. Granted, that was just a rumor. That was a rumor from the podcast 2, the Xbox 2 podcast with Jez Corden. Correct me if I got that name wrong. As far as the podcast name, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I'm sick, guys, and I'm on drugs, and I'm high as a kite right now. So, yeah, it doesn't look like maybe it's not a handheld, though, that's going to be revealed next year. If it's not, I would say then that it's... But we already know that this Christmas holiday season is going to be some news on that front. So maybe not. Maybe it is the hardware. Even though that the hardware is a few years out, maybe by a few years, that could be as little as 2. So maybe we just get some details on it. That would be awesome, by the way. Also, it very could well be just brand new controller type. I think that's actually hugely likely. Hugely likely. That's a phrase that we use. He touched upon the topic of Xbox games on Sony and Nintendo's platforms as well, saying we should expect Microsoft to do more cross-platform launches of its IP going forward. That's not new. Quote, I do not see any sort of red lines in our portfolio that say, quote, thou must not, he told Bloomberg. This is what everyone's freaking out about. That's not new. None of that is new. What has he said in the past? That we're going to take look at every game on a case-by-case basis. Where it makes sense, we will go. That is no different than saying there's no red lines. That's the exact same thing. Every game is being looked at on a case-by-case basis. Now, doing that, I do not think that we're going to get a Gears of War on any other console. I don't think we're going to get a Halo on any other console. Maybe campaign I could see. But even that, I don't think so. Not campaign. Maybe multiplayer I could see. But even that, I don't think so. Again, if you're just looking logically at things and you're looking at what they're using these IPs for to drive people over to Game Pass, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because in the best subscription models, you do still have exclusives. I mean, when you look at like a Netflix, for instance, you do still have exclusives there. So and it's this exclusives. You have third-party exclusives, sure. You have third-party content, absolutely. But you have first-party exclusives there, and that's what helps set you apart from the rest of the pack. Microsoft recently released its financial, this is them closing, results for Q1 of its fiscal year 2025, showing strong growth over its gaming segments following the Activision acquisition, though Xbox hardware revenue is down. That's going to be the continuation going forward. That's going to be the same for everybody. So Xbox is not unique or different in that. So let's first stay on this freak out that we're currently getting that on socials primarily, of people saying, see, they're just a third-party gaming studio. They're not a third-party gaming studio. Anybody that says that is lying to you or not paying attention or doesn't understand the strategy going forward. The strategy is Game Pass. It's all about Game Pass. That's the strategy going forward. Cloud gaming, Game Pass, it makes sense. You want to be on as many devices as possible. You want to reach as many players as possible, which is why Phil Spencer talked about mobile here. It's also why he talked about studio acquisitions. That's all for Game Pass. Let me go to my tweet here. I'm going to quote myself in my tweet. This is what I said today. I pinned this actually to the top of my Twitter account, X1Bros. Go follow me on Twitter, X1Bros, over on Twitter, at X1Bros. Anyone saying Xbox is becoming a third-party publisher is either lying to you or hasn't been paying attention. Xbox is doubling down on exclusives, expanding its ecosystem, and reshaping what a platform can be. The narrative that they're, quote, going third-party is incorrect. And you're going to see a lot of people out there saying that, see, there are no red lines. No red lines is no different, everybody, than saying we're looking at every game on a case-by-case basis. It means they're going to consider everything. And where it makes sense, they will release it on multiple platforms. And so far, I yet to see one of those decisions where you can't see the logic behind it, where it's like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. No, so far, every cross-platform game that has gone cross-platform makes sense. Nate responded here in the comments to this tweet. Vintage Nabu, shout out to my man Nate. He says the next Gears of War will be playable on PlayStation. I don't think so, Nate. I don't think so. I said, I think the only way, I responded here on Twitter, I said, I think the only way that happens is if Game Pass becomes available on PlayStation. Yeah. If Game Pass becomes available on PlayStation, by the way, that's it. It's game over. Game Pass wins. Like that's the ball game. So that's the only way I see that happening. I just don't think that makes sense. Now I may eat my words. Maybe Nate is right. I don't think he is, but maybe he is. And shout out to you, Nate. Right Source News says Xbox has been, quote, going third party since 2002. And I responded exactly. And that's exactly it. It seems like anytime one of these news things comes out and drops that people freak out. Guys, all of this we knew. Like none of this is new. And so I think people are either they're lying to you, they just don't know, or they're trying to create content. And I think that a lot of these social guys, they're just trying to create content there. So I wrote down some questions here that I thought we'd go through, and then who we think is most likely. Let's go through a lot of these publishers and just say yay or nay. Do we think that Xbox is likely to acquire these studios and publishers? Let's go through it. So first of all, one of the questions, do you think Microsoft acquiring more studios is good for the gaming industry, or does it limit competition and choice? I think there is a point where it could be bad, but I don't think we're close to that point. I think it's good right now. I think creating subscription services is good in the same way that I think creating subscription services via Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, Netflix, et cetera, has been good for the creative industry that is television and movies. And let's be honest, it's primarily television. We have seen some of the best television shows drop since we moved to this model. And I think it's because these models allow you to do more, free you up to do stuff that network television, for instance, just didn't allow. And slowly they're catching up to making their own movies too. Which gaming studio would you want Microsoft to acquire next, and why? Okay. So I think Sega would be absolutely huge, but those are really big. Keep in mind, Phil Spencer said it won't necessarily be huge studios because we're still adjusting from the ABK acquisition. And so it may not be something as big as a Sega, but keep in mind, if it is a Sega, the library on Sega, the cojones on Sega, the jugs on Sega are huge. Okay, that library is massive. Sega owns so many IPs. Sega is absolutely massive, and opens you up to so many possibilities and things that can come both on a PC level as well as on a console level there. So Sega would be huge. I think it's going to be a studio that is probably not on this list because the list that I have here is all bigger ones. So for instance, Electronic Arts, EA, they have primarily sports games. There's some other games in there with EA. BioWare is under EA. Do I think EA is likely? No, I don't. I think EA is actually crushing it. I think that they're crushing it with all their titles, The Sims, Battlefield. So I don't think it's EA. I don't think EA at all. Ubisoft is supposedly up for sale at the moment. Is it Ubisoft, however you say it? I like to say Ubisoft There's a fun story behind that, by the way. Someone told me one time, that's not how you say it. And I said, F you, buddy. This is how I say it. I think they've got Assassin's Creed. They've got Far Cry. They've got Rainbow Six. They've got a lot of, Rainbow Six, for instance, is one of its strongest titles there. They do have some sneaky good titles, like the Point Campus series, or the 2 Point series, rather, where the simulation series that are in there. They've got racing series in there that are really good. Is it Ubisoft? I don't think so. Again, I think what we're looking at is Asian developers for sure. I think that's the weak spot in Microsoft's chain, and I think that that's what they're looking to fill. Now, Take-Two is an interesting one. Take-Two owns Rockstar Games. Now, I think Take-Two would be a massive game changer, and I think it's game over. I think Red Dead Redemption, for instance, would be a huge draw for Xbox. I think Grand Theft Auto would be obviously a huge draw for Xbox. I think you've got games like BioShock in there. That would be a huge draw for Xbox. NBA 2K would be a huge draw. It would be huge. It would be massive. I don't think Take-Two is there. I don't think Take-Two is up for sale. I don't think that that's likely. Capcom, on the other hand, I think is much more likely. Capcom does Resident Evil. It does Monster Hunter. Just think the Monster Hunter series alone would be absolutely massive. It fits Xbox's profile as a live service game. It fits what they're good at. It would add to it in a huge way. You've also got stuff like Street Fighter. It's got a strong legacy. They've got huge fan base. It would strengthen Xbox presence in Japan because Capcom, Japan is traditionally a PlayStation-dominated market as well as Nintendo. I think you instantly, with Capcom, add popular franchises with global appeal there. There's no doubt in my mind. So Capcom is a big one. We've talked about Sega. I think Sega's another big one. You got Yakuza with Sega. You've got Persona with Sega. You've got Sonic the Hedgehog, obviously, with Sega. But then you've got so many RPG genres. You've got turn-based strategy genres. You've got real-time strategy genres. Sega has a massive portfolio. So Sega would be absolutely massive as well in there. Square Enix is an interesting one because here's the thing. People will say, no way, Square Enix. I don't know. Look how friendly Square Enix is with Xbox. Square Enix would... Imagine you get Final Fantasy is now an Xbox first party studio. Dragon Quest, Kingdom Hearts. That's giant. But then they have some new games out as well on the Square Enix side. Absolutely huge. And they've been really friendly. I think you get more Japanese and global RPG fans there. Definitely strengthens your portfolio for sure for Square Enix. I don't know how likely any of these are. Sega, the only reason I lean towards Sega is because it's been mentioned in rumors in the past. There's been some hints. There's been some things happening. I'm sure the discussion has maybe been had. But I lean towards if anything's going to happen with a big acquisition, it's going to be Capcom, Sega, or Square Enix, in my opinion. I think that's exactly what Xbox wants and needs to fit its portfolio. Japanese developers, gives you a foothold in there, gives you instant door access, gives you an audience, gives you a global audience, an Asian audience. It gives you everything that Xbox wants. And it fits into Game Pass swimmingly. CD Projekt, you've got Witcher and Cyberpunk there. I don't think so. I don't think CG Projekt is happening. I don't think there's enough. I don't think it really fits a hole that you're missing necessarily. Paradox Interactive is another one that I wrote down here. I think Paradox Interactive is interesting because they do have a close relationship with Xbox. A lot of the games have been on Game Pass, whether it's Crusaders Kings, City Skylines is there. Remember, you've got Europa Universalis. What's the space one? Why can't I think of it? That's been on Game Pass as well. They're very strategy focused. I think Xbox does pretty well though in the strategy library. I'm not sure that adding a Paradox Interactive, while amazing and makes the best 4X strategy games on the planet, in my opinion, I don't think that it fills a hole that's in their portfolio. I think that Xbox has portfolio or has strategy games pretty racked up. Also, they've got a close relationship, it seems, with Paradox Interactive as well. Remedy maybe. I mean, they've worked closely together before, but again, I'm not sure it fits any holes there. IO Interactive is another one with the Hitman series. again, cool. I don't know that it fits or it fills a hole that Xbox is missing there. Here's an interesting one, though. Kojima Productions. And I would say, yes, I think that this could be on the table as well. Hideo Kojima Studio. It's known for really taking risks, taking challenges. It's seen as very innovative. I can't speak. Death Stranding, for instance, is absolutely huge. Kojima's fan base is vast. It's loyal. An acquisition there also gives Xbox unique titles with global appeal, highly critically acclaimed titles, and again, a foot in Asia. I think that's absolutely huge. And then there's other Asian developers here like NetEase or Nextcon. These are mobile game developers and PC companies. Yeah, I think that all of the above are on the table, though. Kojima's interesting. I think Capcom, Sega, Square Enix, I would be very interested to see. Keep in mind, this is just hypothetical. This is just for fun. He did say they're going to be looking at smaller studios as well. So on that note, it's probably not any of those guys. But I do think each of those is more likely because it fills a hole. It fills a gap that they're missing in their first-party studios. I would love to know what you guys think, though. Who do you think is most likely? What would you like to see? What do you think you'll see? And is there a difference there? Let me know in the comments below. Again, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel. My name is X1 the Gamer. That'll do us for today. Have a great rest of your day, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.